Hi everyone. Today's tutorial will show how to make a new Lyra ability and how to have its cooldown be shown up on the reticle, just like the dash. So you can see in the center of the screen there's two different cooldown UI and how to keybind it and have it set up so that the settings has the ability and you can set your own key bindings for it. So this ability in question is the roll ability and I've bound it to the V key. This ability actually damages everything that's in its path. And so if there's more than one enemy, they will all die. So it counts as an area of attack. So first thing you want to do is to create your Lyra starter game. And so open up the Epic Games launcher and click on create project. And for this tutorial, I actually am going to be using an animation from the Advanced Locomotion System. If you already have a montage you want to use for an ability, you can skip this whole section because I will be essentially grabbing an animation from this project that was using the Unreal 4 mannequin and converting it to the Unreal 5 mannequin. The animation that I want from the Advanced Locomotion System is actually called Roll, and it's actually called ALS N land roll F. So this actually uses the mannequin. So we'll need to convert it to the Unreal 5 mannequin. To do so, we'll need to import the content pack for the third-person shooter. So click on Add in the content browser and then Add Feature or Content Pack and then choose the third person. So this is the one that will have all the IK retargeter that we need, some from Unreal 5 mannequin to Unreal 4, but the one that we'll need is the Unreal 4 to Unreal 5. So let's click on Add to Project. Now to retarget, you have to right click on your animation sequence and then choose Retarget Animations Assets and then duplicate and retarget animation assets. And then we want to use the IK retargeter RTG Unreal 4 Manny to Unreal 5 Manny. And then we can choose where we want to save it. Let's save it somewhere that will kind of reflect what Lyra's folder structure is. So under characters, mannequins, and then animations, and then under Manny. We won't actually need to retarget to Quinn because Quinn has some sort of post-process animation blueprint and her role will actually work just as fine as Manny's role. So yeah, let's click OK. And then click retarget. Okay, so this is our retargeted asset. As you can see, when you open it up, it's already working fine with Manny and everything, and it looks great. Let's rename our animation sequence so it matches the naming conventions of Unreals. So let's call it roll forward. Now let's migrate our animation sequence. To do that, right click, go to Asset Actions, then Migrate. It will try to pull in a lot of dependencies. You don't need anything else than your animation sequence. So let's go ahead and uncheck everything. So you don't need the heroes, do need characters, and then everything else must go. So no need for textures. All right, so the only thing that should be migrated is the forward animation. Okay, and then you need to choose your project. So in my case, it's under Lyra Projects, Ability, then your content folder. Then select folder. There you have it. Now you can go ahead and close this project. Go ahead and open up your Lyra project and find your roll animation. You'll see that it shows up as a black box. That's because we just need to fix up its asset and what it's associated with. So double click on it and then say yes to choose a new skeleton. And this one will be a mannequin. So SK mannequin. Okay. Okay, let's save this guy. It still is complaining about some issues, so let's go ahead and open it up. Okay, so the issue says that it self-references an asset which does not exist. So what we need to do here is we need to update the retarget source so that it is Manny, skeleton mesh Manny. Okay, update. And then also in the preview mesh, we need to just reset this one and then apply to asset. And then you can save and you'll see there's no more warning about anything. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and make sure you disable the root motion because our ability will not be using root motion because that has trouble with multiplayer. So let's go ahead and disable root motion and don't need this either and save. Let's actually move it to a more sensible spot in the Lyra project. So that is under content, characters, heroes, mannequins, animation, then action. So let's just move that over here. Okay, and then we can actually delete that animations folder that we had. And yeah, even the mannequins folder. Let's now go ahead and create an animation montage, which our ability will be using. So right click on your roll forward and then create animation montage. Let's prefix this with AM for animation montage. And then you can delete the suffix for montage. Okay, and then for a montage, it needs to be using the right slot so that the animation blueprint will let the animation play over all the bones. So the actual good slot is slot name, default group, full body. And you'll see him get really stiff. This is just a bug or a feature that's been in the engine for a while. All you have to do is close it and reopen it, and then you'll see that he's back to rolling. For the first part of creating our gameplay ability, let's set up the input. So navigate to content input actions, and as you can see, there's the IA ability dash. Let's just duplicate this one, and let's call this one roll. It's very good to take example from what Lyra has. So let's see how the dash is hooked up. To do that, you right click on it and then let's see the reference viewer. All right, so you can see that the input is hooked up to the input data and an input context for the gamepad and the keyboard mouse. So let's open those up and let's replace and add what we need. Let's start with the keyboard configuration. So right click on the default keyboard, browse to asset. Let's double click to open that up. Okay, let's add the input for the roll. So press the plus button and then let's choose our roll input action. And then for this one, I will choose the V key. So you can actually click on this symbol and then tap the key that you would like. And let's see what Dash has, if they have anything extra. Okay, so they actually, so the way to make it player mappable, you have to press, enable this option, and then you have to give it a name, and then I will show where that shows up in the settings menu. So let's first enable this, and then I'll just call this one ability underscore roll, and then the display name will just be roll. Okay, and then so now our keyboard and mouse input is configured, and you can actually see it when you play. A nice thing to do when you're searching for levels is to enable the level filter. So I'll just show it. So to do that, you go under the asset filter and then you select the level. Okay, and so I will choose the expanse. Yes. Okay, so let's now play. And you'll see in the settings menu, the new option for roll will show up. Okay, so that's loaded. So let's go and do the options. And then under mouse and keyboard, you'll notice that the roll keyboard binding is now here. Let's stop this, and now let's add the key binding for the gamepad. Let's get back to our reference viewer for the dash ability, and this time let's go to the default gamepad. So browse to asset, let's open it up, and let's add the input action ability roll. Okay, and then same for this one. The thing is with Lyra, I haven't found where to actually set up the gamepad key binding. You can't really see them in the settings screen. I'm not sure if it's a bug. If anyone figures that out, please write in the comments. So okay, so this display category is gamepad. And let's call this one roll. Okay, so now the ability roll input action is, oh, that's right. I need to choose a pad. So I'll turn on my gamepad and then I will select the value. And for this one, I will press the B button on my Xbox controller. Okay, let's go ahead and save this. Okay, and then the next on the list is the input data for the hero. So let's right click on that and browse to the asset. And then let's open that one up. Okay, so you'll see under the ability input actions is where the dash ability happens. So let's actually go ahead and duplicate this. Okay, so it's right here. So we'll need to change this one to the roll. And then let's go ahead and create a new input tag for our roll. So under the ability, let's press the plus for adding a sub tag. And then let's call this one roll. All right, so whenever this input action happens, it will try to trigger an ability that's bound to the input tag ability roll. Okay, now to find where that ability is set up, you can actually right click on a tag and find its usages. So search for references for the dash one. Okay, and then this will show you another reference viewer. So we already covered this one. Now we need to add our ability to the ability set, and we actually need to create the ability itself. So let's browse to the ability set. It's starting to get packed. So yeah, let's double click on this one, and then we need to add our granted ability for the roll. So again, let's just duplicate the dash and then change our input tag to the roll. And then here we actually need to create our gameplay ability. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll be using very similar functionality for from the gameplay ability dash. So let's go ahead and browse to it, and let's duplicate all these assets actually, and let's paste them in a new folder. This one I will just name roll, and let's paste. Okay, let's go ahead and rename those assets. So roll dash roll, and this one too. We don't actually have an assets for this one, so I'll kind of disregard this, but I'm pretty sure that's for the mobile buttons. Okay, let's go ahead and actually add this ability, bind it to the dash input, so we can just drag it over here. So now whenever that input tag happens, this ability will trigger. For the next section of this tutorial, we'll be setting up Cooldown in Cooldown UI. So first, we want to make a widget that isn't exactly on top of the dash cooldown widget. So let's go ahead and just move our widget just a little bit down, and let's tint it red instead of blue. So to do that, just open your widget roll cooldown, and in the perf saving alpha clip, you can actually add some top padding. So I'll put it 30 instead of 16 so they won't overlap anymore. And then all these materials, they actually are material instances, so we can duplicate and just set the color that we want. So for all of those, let's just navigate to where the location is, and let's just duplicate them and change it to red. So I will just duplicate this one, duplicate this one, let's just name it all roll instead of dash. Okay. And then let's open it up. And then under the RGBA, let's just change all the hue to 0 so it's red. Same with this one. And same with this one. Okay, and then what you can do is you can just like drag it in and it will replace it. So you can start to see it's getting a bit more red. So let's do the same for all the other two. So let's find it, right click, duplicate, rename to roll. Okay. And then change its colors to red. So this one, 0, 0, 0. All right. And then and replace it. And then the last one is the boost. So same deal with this one. Right click, duplicate, rename. Oh, roll. And then instead of yellow, it'll be red. Okay. And let's drag this one too. And there you have it. So now it's red and it'll be a bit lower. So we also need to set the widget to be used by the ability. So let's navigate back to our ability. I have a lot of windows open. So let me just close a few. I won't be needing those anymore. I won't be needing the ability set or the input data. Okay. So under game, roll, and it's really nice, the gameplay ability with widgets, it actually adds a widget to the slot, the HUD slot. So under the class default, you can choose it. It's under the ability HUD widget, and then you can just drag this one into here. And then same thing with that one, even though we haven't done anything particularly interesting with that one. But now this ability, whenever it's on cooldown, it will be using this widget. Let's actually create a unique cooldown for this ability. So instead of 1.5 seconds, let's have it at 2 seconds. So to do so, like all the cooldowns for abilities is actually at the bottom of the class default. So let's navigate to the hero dash cooldown and let's duplicate this one. And let's call it roll. Okay. And the only thing that the gameplay effect does that's a cooldown, what it actually does is it just adds the tag to the actor and for a certain duration. So whenever that tag is on, it just means that it's on cooldown. So let's change this to 2 seconds. And that tag is, we'll need to change it. So let's edit it and let's add another tag just for the roll cooldown. So under character, roll dot cooldown. And then let's remove the dash one. Save. Okay. And then under ability, we want it to use the roll one. So let's just drag this one in. And now we're using our own cooldown. And another thing we want to change is the ability tag. So what's added to the player whenever you're on this ability. So you want to change this one to the role also. So type action, let's add role here as well. So bye bye dash. Same with this one. So this one will be event movement and then role. Okay. The widget for the cooldown actually utilizes the tag from the role. So we'll need to go in and update that. So let's go and do the graph. And when you listen for the duration of the cooldown, it's actually over here. So we'll need to change this one to be ability.role.duration.message. So ability dot role dot duration dot message. Then in our ability, we actually need to update it to actually call this gameplay message. So that one is over here. So when it broadcasts the cooldown time, so we'll need to change this one to be the ability.role duration message. So whenever this ability is on cooldown, it will send to the widget, which will show itself and do all the logic that's in here. So let's see the state of our game at the moment. So let's just minimize everything and let's play. And now you'll see that whenever I use the dash ability is the blue one, whenever I use the roll ability is the red one. So both of them can actually interlap. Next part of this video, we'll just customize it so it actually uses our montage and just happens whenever you're on the ground, not in the air. Go ahead and open your gameplay ability hero role. We'll make some modification. First of all, you don't need to select a directional montage. We just want the roll to happen towards the front. So let's just go ahead and delete this one. Okay, we don't need that variable actually, because we're just going to use one montage. So just go ahead and delete that. Yeah, and let's navigate to where the montage is playing. So here, well, we can actually use this, but we don't need to set it. So we're going to use our roll montage, roll forward, and it actually has a length. It's quite slow, so let's just make the rate be faster. And then, so the length is, it doesn't, so the length, oh yeah, if you hover over your roll montage, it will tell you that the sequence length is 1.5 seconds. So we'll just need to update our root motion to only happen during that time. So the duration, root motion duration should be 1.5 or 1 second actually. So let's go ahead and do that. So root motion duration is 1, and in this in this ability we're okay that you can cancel into another action. So let's just get rid of this logic, but do keep the end ability. Another part of the ability that we don't really need is to calculate the direction. All we want is the forward vector of the actor. So let's go ahead and get the Lyra character from the actor info. So get forward, actor forward vector. So the direction will be this. And now we can delete this. Navigate to this node. So this is the apply root motion constant force node, and it's great because it works in multiplayer. So it's not really using root motion, it's just applying some motion in the background. A really cool part of this task is you can actually use a curve to change how much strength there is by the time. So you can really define how your curve works and everything. Like it doesn't need to be like linear. At the moment it's linear, so I'll just show an example for if we use any kind of curve. So I'll just choose a ease in curve, and then let's try to play again. Okay, so with this curve, when you play, it will kind of do an ease in. Like it'll look a little floaty at the end, so you'll want to customize your curve. So let's create ourselves a custom curve. Let's navigate to the ease in, and let's just copy paste this one close to the ability. So Control C, Control V, and then this one will be the one we use. Let's call this one roll movement curve. Okay, and let's drag that one in. And then what's great with curves is you can actually edit them while you're playing, which is really fantastic. So this one at the end of the curve, I will put it at 0. Oh, not -0, just 0. And let me add another key. Okay, so it eases in and out. So let's just do auto. Same with this one, auto. Okay, so let's try to play with this new curve. Another really neat trick is that whenever you're testing out, just to not get damaged by the enemies and just die all the time, you can actually use the tilde key and then you press God. So this is essentially God mode, so you won't be able to be damaged. I've seen in the convolution map you can actually die by falling off, so it doesn't make you fully invulnerable, but it's really good for testing out. So yeah, now you see the curve is a little better, and you can see you can totally just change it on the fly, which is really fantastic. So you can go very far. I'll just undo that. I actually liked my curve. Oh, maybe the undo doesn't work as well in the play session. Okay, so yeah, I'm quite happy with this. So you can see you can still use the dash ability, you can use the roll ability, and your montage plays very nicely. And it also works on Quinn. In the next part of this tutorial, I'll be talking about how to apply damage and how to get a target in an ability. So there's some very nice tasks, gameplay ability tasks that are already there, but most of them are very just like you get a target once. So I actually created my own ability task. I will link the code in the comments, but I will also show how to do it. So what you can do is you can add a task for wait target data, and then we can use a radius and set the radius and the start location and all that, but you will get some data, but it'll be instantaneous. It won't be during the whole duration of the roll. So let's go ahead and create our own task, which is very loosely based on the wait. It's interactable. Like there's a task that Lyra has that runs the entire game if you have interactions enabled, and it basically just finds the next target that you can interact with. So let's go ahead and create a new C++ file. So let's make this smaller, and then under tools, new C++ class, and then this one, so it'll be its parent will be ability task. Okay, and you can see there's so many different tasks that you can use. That this is part of the ability system. It's very customizable, which is fantastic. Yeah, so let's just choose ability task, and then just make sure it's under the Lyra game. You don't want to put it under any plugin. So Lyra game, and then let's put it under ability system and then tasks, because I'm sure you'll have more custom tasks that you want to add. Okay, select folder, And then this one, let's call it ability task underscore wait for target loop, because this task will be looping and will continuously try to find a target as your character is rolling. Okay, and then just click on create class. Okay, if you're using Writer, it will open up Writer. If you're using Visual Studio, it'll open that one. I really love Writer. It's very fast and it uses ReSharper, which is fantastic. So yeah, you can go ahead and download both files, and then you can copy paste in the header in the C++ file. And then I'll do a quick overview. So yeah, select all in the header file, copy, select everything, paste, and do the same for the C++ file, the body file. Okay, and then save. And then the beauty of Unreal 5 is that it it uses live coding, which is very much better than hot reload, that's for sure. So once this is all in, you can go back to your project. Okay, and then you can press Control Alt F11 and it will rebuild for you. My build failed, but it's because I had misnamed my folder to tasks instead of task. So I'll make sure to update that before I put my code online. So I'll try the live coding once more. All right, so that did it. So the patch was successful. So now I should be able to use my ability task. So let me find back my role ability. There it is, GA hero role. Okay, and then my task is actually called wait for target sphere overlap pawn. So what this does, it takes a radius and it takes a rate. So every 0.1 seconds, it will scan for an overlap on a pawn. You can see with the show debug, you'll see the debug sphere. So let's hook this in after we hook up to the root motion constant force. Let's actually borrow or use some code from the melee damage to damage the target pawns. So let's locate the melee ability. So that one is GA melee. Okay. So this one, whenever it has a target, first it checks are you on the same team, and if not, then it does the damage. So we'll use this here, and then let's apply a gameplay hit effect and a cue. So let's also take these ones. Okay. We don't really need the hit information, so let's paste those in our hero role ability. Oh, looks like I only got one part of it. Okay. So let's take this one here. Okay, and let's also check if the pawn has an ability system. All right, so if there's some overlap pawns, let's see if that pawn has a oh yeah, for each. So let's iterate through all the overlap pawns, and then for each, let's see if they have an ability system. And if they do, then check the team and then do the damage. When we compare the teams, we need to grab the actor from this here, because this will be the overlap actors, so the enemies. So if you're on a different teams, then you apply the gameplay effect to the target. So we don't need this. We don't need that either. So the target is the gameplay ability from the enemy. Okay, and I guess we do need to make a context. So let's make an effect context. Okay, and then it'll execute this gameplay cue, which is pretty much just a screen shake and I think a sound. All right, so, oh, and let's hook this back into the logic that we were hooked into. Okay, yeah, so has authority. Oh, yeah, and let's hook in our loop body. Okay, so now for each pawn that's overlapped, it will check if you're on the team, and then it'll apply damage if you're on the opposite team. Okay, I just cleaned up a little bit. We can now see that the effect context does need the ability system. So let's hook that in. Let's compile. And then now when we roll, we should see a debug sphere of the overlaps that it's trying to do and try to find a target to hit. So let's play. Okay, so now when we press V, see, now there's the debug spheres. So when I'm not hitting anything, it's green. Oh, let's be gods. Ah, and then when I hit someone, it does the damage. It does as much damage as the melee does, so it's pretty much an instant death. So it's pretty satisfying when there's a group of enemies, but it's kind of hard to get to them. Okay, so. And then if you want to turn off that debug, oh, aha, oh. I'd say for an ability like this, it would need a big cooldown because it's very effective. In the wait for target sphere overlap pawn, we could say don't show the debug. So yeah, I can actually go over that, over the code. I'll try to put them side by side so you can see how they relate. So I'll just put this one to my left side and then my righter, which is right here. All right. Oh, yeah, this one too. Okay, so the way ability tasks work is in the output pin, they have one multicast delegate, and I found out through trial, is that it has to be a const ref, has to not change anything when that happens. And this one I base it off the wait for interact task. So you can look at that for reference. So all it does is whenever it's activated, it just sets a timer and then it uses the rate that we set right here, and it loops. Basically it calls perform trace every like 0.1 seconds, and the performant trace, the only thing that it does is it does an overlap pawn, overlap multi by object type, so it can actually overlap more than one pawn, and then it adds to the current overlapping pawns, which is just a member variable, and if it has any new overlapping pawn, it broadcasts, and if debug is true, it draws the debug sphere, and then on destroy, it just clears the timer. So it's a very simple task, but I found it very useful for being able to find a target over time, or else it's just kind of a one-time thing or a user confirmed thing, or you have to put your logic in the montage or in the pawn, but it gets a bit muddled, so I kind of like to put all the damaging logic inside the ability itself. But yeah, so this was the way to have damage over time and over a certain distance. Yeah, so there you have it. Now you should be able to create any new abilities into Lyra and to bind new keys or add it through a game feature plugin. So yeah, I find the Lyra example is very good and very full of examples. So don't be shy, mix and matching things, digging deep into how they did anything, and using all their animations, and you can also use like asset packs for animations, and even if they're Unreal 4 mannequin, as you saw, it's very easy to convert to the Manny and Quinn. I just noticed it's Manny Quinn, Manny Quinn. Well, I hope I wasn't the only one to realize that just now. Uh, but yeah, having a blast learning, Lyra, and I hope this was useful to all of you. So yeah, dev on, and thanks for watching.